I think for a lot of people, a World Series championship is required out of the Bryce Harper era with the Phillies. Like, to make this a true success. Because I heard the morning show and they were discussing, has this been a success so far? And I would say to that question, yeah, Bryce Harper has lived up to his end of the bargain. He won an MVP. He's been one of the better players in baseball. I wouldn't say he's been the best player. I mean, we could be honest, right? Like, Shohei Ohtani exists and Aaron Judge exists. But Bryce Harper has been, for the last 6.5 years, one of the best players in baseball.
Stalwart.
Yeah, and there's been some injuries, but when he's on the field, he has produced at a very high level and clearly in the postseason. But there is a conversation of, what if they don't win? Like, what is this without a World Series? Hugh Douglas, you used the word required, so I'll ask you the question. In order for us to remember this thing as a true success, when it's all said and done, we're halfway through, does the Bryce Harper Phillies era have to have a World Series championship to be a true success?
Will you allow me to long talk?
Always.
Just for a moment.
Only in the first segment. That's the only time it's allowed.
I feel like this is one of those questions. It's a sticky question.
It is.
Because there's a lot of layers to this story. So it's not, for me, this is not a yes or no situation. This is one of those situations where I have to long talk just a little bit.
Filibuster's coming. Here we go.
No, I'm just saying I have to long talk just a little bit. Now, I was in Atlanta when Bryce Harper first became a Philly. And I remember before that happened, it was a baseball wasteland, if you will. I remember people talking about from afar how nobody was going to the park. Nobody wanted to go. A Double Herrera era. That's what I like to call it, a Double Herrera era.
Yeah, what a wonderful era that was.
Yeah, and when he got here, I just remember hearing the cut of how excited Ike and everybody was. And Bryce has brought the fans back to Philadelphia. He's done that. And I think he's done that by, we call him names like the Panda-in-Chief and all that other good stuff. He's brought the fans back to Philadelphia. He's made baseball fun again. But with that being said, Joe, the team that he left, ironically, wins the World Series.
Wow, 10:05. 10:05. Douglas goes there.
This is
wow.
It's hard, but it's fair.
It's true.
Because
it's true.
That's what we look at when we see Bryce Harper as fans. We look at World Series championships and a guy that's going to help bring them to us. So, this is the two-part question. This is a two-part answer for me. Has the Bryce Harper experiment been good so far? Yes.
Yeah, clearly he's played really well.
Yes, it has. But if he goes the next 6 years and doesn't win a championship.
Oh, I'll cut that one, yeah. Some good audio.
Then I'm going to say no.
Okay. All right. Let me chime in here. It's Hugh Douglas. 5 minutes in brings up the fact the Nationals won the year left.
I'm just saying, it's hard, but it's fair. That's what every athlete of that caliber is measured by. Okay, for example, Myles Garrett. As good as he is, Myles Garrett is probably a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, clearly.
But when you look at his career, be like, I didn't win nothing.
Yeah, but he plays for the Browns.
But that don't matter.
It does matter.
It don't matter.
He's a defensive pass rusher.
LeBron played for the Cavaliers and had to leave to get his, and then came back and gave one.
Now, I do think, and it's interesting you bring up him. I think this, depending on the sport we're talking about, there's a little bit of different weight on it. I think of all the sports, the NBA superstar is the most responsible for his team winning or losing.
Yes, because it's five guys on the court. And,
right. So if you don't win one and you're considered one of the truly great NBA players, then there's something wrong with your tenure. I mean, that's just the reality of the way it works. Football's probably the next closest with the quarterback. Now, it's not only the quarterback, but it's
the team as a whole. But the quarterback makes it go.
The quarterback makes it go and has a large role most of the time, and if the team wins or loses.
Yes.
Baseball is not quite like that. Now, it's a big part of it. Like, Bryce Harper's a big part of the Phillies. But Bryce Harper can be great, and the Phillies could be mediocre. We literally saw this when he won his MVP in 2021. Here's the way I view this. I believe this has already been a success, regardless of what happens the next 6.5 years. I consider the Bryce Harper era a success, even if the Phillies don't win a World Series. You mentioned what it was like before, and I remember being here before, the Bryce Harper experience. And it was dull. I mean, the Phillies were dull. In the national landscape, they were dead. They were dormant. No one talked about the Phillies. Locally, it almost felt sad. We had to talk ourselves into Nick Williams and Aaron Altair and Maikel Franco, guys that were just placeholders for when the real baseball would arrive here in Philadelphia a few years later. They were placeholders. We had to talk ourselves into it. It was, in retrospect, it was silly. We're like, oh, maybe Maikel's really good. Maybe Odubel's really good. They weren't. I mean, they were just placeholders. And that was kind of the state of the Phillies until Bryce Harper got here. He revived baseball in this town. I remember the shows that I would do back in the day, and then as a station, it was tough to talk about the Phillies. In 2018, Gabe Kapler was clearly the most interesting part of the team as the manager.
And he's the manager.
He's the manager. If the manager's the most important part of or most important or interesting, you got a dull team. And then Bryce Harper got here and was like, oh my goodness, we have something that we want to watch every day. He revived baseball in Philadelphia. He has lived up to his end of the bargain. He won an MVP. He has been incredible in October. I mean, one of the great hitters in the history of the postseason. Now, I know they haven't won. They got to a World Series. They lost. I know that. But I already have decided the Bryce Harper experience is worth it. And it's a success, even if they don't win a World Series. I think this whole thing was a success and is a success, even if it ends without a World Series. Because what were the Phillies before Bryce Harper?
Nothing.
They were nothing.
I mean that's kind of strong, but it's apropos.
Now, I mean, historically, they obviously had some great runs, right? 07 to 11 was great, and the late 70s, early 80s was great. I'm not saying in 100 years they were nothing.
No, but I get where you're coming. I can pick up what you're putting.
But in the moment, they were nothing without Bryce Harper, and he has helped usher in an era where the Phillies matter again. They didn't matter. I mean, they didn't matter, and he made them matter, and he's lived up to his end of the bargain. I don't need a World Series for this to be a success. I don't. Now, that would be the cherry on top. But Bedlam at the bank, the World Series run in 2022, postseasons 3 years in a row, probably a fourth this year. This is success to me. Yeah, see, you're being hard on him.
Well, I'm not being hard on him. I'm being illogical, like most fans are.
Oh, you're admitting you're illogical.
No.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, young Rojas. I'm about to school you right now.
I thought you said he was old the other day.
Well, he old ass young Rojas.
Old ass young Rojas. Okay.
But see, here's the thing. We as fans, most of our takes, because I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and they were like, well, as a matter of fact.
You were talking?
Well, we were talking about it because somebody asked me about you.
Yeah.
And said, well, why
how do you
Joe
work with that idiot?
And I said, listen, man, Joe is a fan. He's a diehard fan. And when you listen to most fans talk, Joe sounds like a fan. Now, the biggest difference is we have this big old signal that we're on every day. But I talk to people every day that if for the sake of this argument to have crazy takes. That's what most fans have. And unfortunately, the basketball era, the way that most people are measured, most athletes are measured by championships. Now, it started in basketball, but it has trickled down into every other sport.
Ring culture.
Yes, it's the ring culture. And I know that a lot of guys are trying to downplay that ring culture and all the other stuff. But the fact of the matter is, when we have our conversations as fans, the thing that is the no-brainer, the thing that shuts down most conversations is championships. That's what most premier athletes are measured by. Bryce Harper's a premier athlete.
Yes.
No question about it. You're talking about on the face of the cover of Sports Illustrated.
At 16 years,
a baseball phenom and all that. And unfortunately for him, the team that he was on won after he left.
And
not only that,
and the Phillies haven't won. Yeah.
And not only that, he was considered for a time a cancer as a player. So now you come to a new team, Joe, and on this new team, you have a lot of cachet. You have a lot of say. You have even gone as far as to handpick some of the individuals that are here, right?
Absolutely.
So now you've done all of that, and you still haven't won one. That's a failure, unfortunately, respectfully.
So I respect the way you're saying it, and a lot of athletes, I would say that. Now, this might be me more ripping the Phillies than Bryce Harper. The Phillies don't exactly the Phillies aren't the Yankees. The Phillies aren't the Cardinals. The Phillies aren't the Dodgers, right? The Phillies don't have a rich history of rolling parades down Broad Street. It's not been the franchise. So if he went to the Yankees, if he went to the Dodgers who didn't win, then I would say, maybe you're the problem. He came to the Phillies. As much as we love the Phillies.
And we're happy that he picked us.
Yes, but let's be real about what the Phillies have been for 100 and something years. They've had 2 pockets of excellence. I mean, that's it. And you might want to consider this the third pocket. But they've had 2 pockets of excellence, and most of the rest of the time they bumble around. I mean, that's who the Phillies have been. So can I judge him solely on championships? I'm not doing that. I think the era. Now, if he didn't play well or he didn't live up to his end of the bargain, I'd have a different feel. But clearly, he's lived up to his end of the bargain. The team hasn't gotten over the hump yet. We all hope they do. I don't know. I mean, they have a shot this year. I don't know if it's going to happen. I do know this. I already consider this a success, even if they don't win a championship. 215-592-9494. Hugh does it. Where do you come down? Let's get Francisco's take, and then we got to go back in memory lane here and hear how it sounded the day Bryce Harper arrived to Philadelphia. Fran, where do you come down on this? If the Phillies don't win a World Series, can the Bryce Harper era be considered a success?
So this is about the Bryce Harper era of baseball, right? We're not talking about necessarily Bryce has done his part. We talked about this. Bryce has done everything that he's been able to do. He's won an MVP here. He's been productive. The playoff numbers have been there. Bryce has done whatever he's been able to do. But this is about, look, when Bryce was brought here, this is about going to win World Series, man. We're going to win titles. Look, even if Bryce does even if he's productive, even in the second half of his career here, Philly's got to win a World Series. That's what he was brought here to do. They put teams here together the last couple of years that's supposed to be contenders, and still, I mean, some consider them now.
Well, so they obviously are a contender.
Yeah. So I would say they still need to win a World Series.
You need to get over the hump, man.
Okay.
For the era of Bryce Harper baseball, the era, just like the era was with Jimmy and Cole and everybody there, they have to win a World Series.
All right. 215-592-9494. Does the Bryce Harper era need a World Series to be considered a success? I don't think so, because it's to me, the Phillies being this good and him being this good, this is what I signed up for. Like this, as a fan, I signed up for. He's got to hit, and a lot, and he has. And the team has to be a contender, and they have been. Now, they haven't won it all. In 2022, they were this close. 2023, this close. But when a player hits this much in the postseason, is this good for this long, I consider the whole era a success, even if they don't win a World Series. Where do you come down? Let's go back in the memory banks here. I remember where I was. I was in the car. I was driving into WIP to do my night show. It was around 2:50, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I forget the date, or it was late February, whatever the date was. But I forget, it was like maybe a Thursday. Whatever the day was, I remember where I was late February 2019 when Bryce Harper officially, the news broke, he became a Philly. Here it was, the afternoon show at the time, Marks and Reese, produced by Ben Livingston. Here is how it sounded.
Do I think the Phillies in Philadelphia is the top of his list? No, I don't think there's anybody that thinks that. Do I think that maybe he has some reservations about playing here for the next 10 years, or his wife does? No.
John Heyman, Bryce Harper to the Phillies!
No way!
Official blue check mark and everything. Bryce Harper is going to the Phillies. Stop everything you are doing.
Bring on the music. Hold on, we got to make sure we verify it first. Make sure
it's verified. It's verified. It's
verify
him.
Everything, Ben, before
it's
we
him.
turn on the music,
Bryce
Ben.
to the Phillies. You said sort of breaking news.
Yeah, what the hell is sort of breaking news? Pump it up. Pump it up. Hey.
I just funny.
It's one of my favorite WIP moments of all time. Them celebrating, singing, Ike screaming.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Terrible. It was
Well,
awesome.
someone to sing it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was a great time.
It was a great moment.
It was a great moment. But
people in the hallway screaming, jumping up and down. I think
That's the best part.
Yeah.
In the background, you can hear everybody. Yeah.
I think it was Jack Fritz in the background jumping up and down. All right, 215-592-9494. Harper at the half today as we're halfway through the 13-year, $330 million contract. I think it's a success, even if it doesn't end with a World Series. Hugh needs ring culture. Douglas over here needs that ring.
Coming from a guy who didn't win a ring. But as a side note, the Max Kepler thing, because people are asking me, I didn't hit. Because I didn't bet it. I bet it the first time, and he didn't do it. So I didn't run it back.
Okay.
So
You should have.
I should have run it
Yeah,
back.
you should have. He still stinks.
But thank
All
you
right.
for everybody who was concerned that I didn't get it. I'm gonna lay off betting for a little while. I've been catching L's
Wow.
lately.
Well,
When I say a little
Kyle
while,
and I try to tell you this was happening.
when I
Yeah.
say a little while, I mean just for a couple of days.
Yeah, until tomorrow. All right. Before we get to the phones here, let's also hear Bryce, the introductory press conference a few days later down in Clearwater. It's amazing how young Bryce Harper sounds. This. Here's Bryce, early March 2019, as he's introduced as a Philly.
Somewhere I wanted to be, and of course the baseball side of coming in there and having success, playing in front of great fans, being able to come in every single night, and like you said, get booed a little bit, but I love that.
I don't think they're going to boo you for a while.
But that's a fan base, that's what it's all about. That's something that I enjoy. I love coming in and knowing that these fans care. They care about their team. They care about the guys around them. They care about their city, and that's what it's all about.
Hugh, doesn't he sound young in that?
Young as hell.
Well, I mean, he was only 26, so
Yeah, he sounds super young.
yeah, that age, when you go from like mid-20s to early 30s,
and wore him out. He
Yeah.
sound all grizzled and,
it's like
and
a
hardened.
sitting president when they age. Philadelphia ages athletes and coaches
Yeah.
dog years. No, he does sound young, but I felt it from the beginning that he had a connection to this place, and I think this place had a connection in from the jump. 215-592-9494. It took about a month and a half for someone to boo him here, so it didn't take that long. All right, let's go to the phone lines here. Harper at the half. Can you consider the Harper era a success if it ends without a World Series title?